right, welcome back to another episode of We the Unruly. My guest today, Suzanne Jabour, is a dear friend, and I've known you. I've been in accountability groups with you now for a year and a half. I know, right?
Wow.
That is wild. But before we started this, what you missed was us singing "Bad Girls, Bad Girls." So you're missing out on the fun, but we're here now. So welcome, Suzanne.
Thank you. A year and a half, really?
Uh,
That's
It was
wild to me.
January of 2025.
Yeah, I believe you. It's just
I know.
mind-boggling to me. This whole construct that is time
Yeah, it's like, what
is
is time?
I'm tenuously connected, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, June, I had so many things that I wanted to get done by this date, and life had other plans for me. And that's okay because, as we talk about in the Unruly Collective, lives, right?
Yeah.
It's who are we being? How are we showing up as lives, right? So I am proud of how I showed up, and I didn't make progress on my big unruly goals, but they're coming. Anyway, Suzanne,
Yep.
introduce yourself. You're so much more than my accountability partner.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah. So I am in Vancouver, Canada, so international programming today. I'm
Woohoo.
a grief
You're
coach
an
and
international speaker.
I am an international speaker. I have spoken now. I was trying to figure it out the other day. I think the only continent I haven't spoken on other than Antarctica is South America. I haven't spoken anywhere in South America yet, like no podcasts or interviews or anything from there. So
Wow.
otherwise, I think I have it all. Yeah, which is pretty cool when you think about it. I'm like, wow, I
Yeah.
might actually be moving the needle in my business and doing things that have an impact. Huh.
Yeah, we don't see the things that you tell it out loud and people are like, that's so cool, that's awesome. And then you're like,
Right?
oh, I guess it is. Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
kind of sort of is. So I work now as a grief coach and consultant, educator, speaker, writer, author, all the things, specifically around grief and how it really works, how much it really is in our lives all the time, because grief is not just for the loss of a loved one or a pet. It's loss of opportunity, it's loss of businesses. It's, as you're saying, for some of us, when we're, approaching the end of Q2 and our Q1 list is still not done, we
And we're
might have some
56
griefy
years
feelings
old.
about that. Right. Well, you're a baby, so
Oh,
congratulations.
okay.
Um,
Okay.
we have some grief around all of those things,
Yeah.
but we're so scared of grief as a collective that we don't want to label anything as grief because that's too scary.
Mm.
What that denies us is the opportunity, first of all, for the really rich, transformational, growth filled journey that grief is, and also for the opportunities for us to show up for each other in those griefs that aren't catastrophic.
Mm,
So for
mhm.
me, I come to this work, as you know, but for folks who don't know me yet, I come to this work after the death of my son. And he died, suddenly and unexpectedly in September of 2020. And that kind of catastrophic, life rupturing loss is not a good place either for me as the griever to start learning
Mhm.
about grief,
Mhm.
which is what I really had to do as a matter of survival,
Yeah.
or for the people around me to try and show up to support me, because that kind of a loss ruptures everything for everyone in the vicinity. But
Yeah.
if we can show up for each other when we lose a job or a launch of a product or, these losses that don't blow your life up,
Mhm.
we're all practicing the skills, the understanding, we're sharing the knowledge. So that's what I really love to help people do. Obviously, the work that I do one-on-one with clients is when they've had a big life rupturing loss and they need support to find their way to themselves again. Um, but my sort of larger mission and cathedral project really is to disrupt our broken paradigm around grief
Mm.
so that we talk about it as normally and casually as we share what we're watching on Netflix, which for me right now, by the way, if you have not yet watched Department Q,
Ooh,
it is
mm-mm. Is it
so
so good?
good. So good.
Okay.
That's what I am currently watching.
Amazing. We will have that in the show notes, a link to that.
Yeah.
I will let my husband know we need to prioritize that up higher. What I
Yeah.
love though is that as I hear you talking, you make grief accessible for people, right?
Yes.
And you use the word paradigm shifting. When I think about my mission, my cathedral with We the Unruly is to shift paradigms. The paradigms we
Yeah.
have, we know they're not working, and we need some of us brave, slightly wacky people
Yep.
taking the reins and like being like, no, this is not how we're going to do it. And I think
Yeah.
that's, that just makes you so unruly. And I know you mentioned in, I wasn't like, we were talking about with unruly, and you were like, I was like, well, it's not like rebellious for rebellious sake. And you're like, but it's in the name. And
Because
I
I'm
so
like
get that.
such a rule follower in so many
I
ways.
know.
And in other
Yeah.
ways, I'm like, but the system is stupid. And
Right.
so let's come
Right.
up with something else. And it's that part of, that's what attracts me so much to the sort of unruly
Hmm.
lifestyle,
Hmm.
if you will, is that sense that, yeah, there's lots of rules that make society run better, that make us all kinder to each
Absolutely.
other. If there was no rules in traffic, it would be even worse than it is now, right? There's lots of rules that make a lot of sense to me.
Hmm.
And then there's other rules that I look at it and I go, but
Hmm.
that's not actually working for most of us.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it takes folks like us to say, it's actually a systems level problem. Like to me, grief and the way we respond to
Yeah.
it and do it right now, it's a systems level problem. This is
Yeah.
not an individual problem. This is not, I'm not doing it right, or you're not doing it right, or you
Hmm.
don't know enough about it. This is, as a collective,
Hmm.
we don't know enough about it. We don't fully do it. And we don't know how to show up for each other because it all goes back to we don't know enough about it.
Yeah. And we continue to make it this uncomfortable thing to talk about, which is not how we support the collective,
No,
right? Not even, and I'm
no.
not talking the unruly collective, I'm talking collective, society as a whole. That is not how we support each other when we continue to put it, under, hide your finger under a bushel. No, going back to
Yeah.
my Sunday school days.
Yeah.
No, but
Hide your finger under a bushel.
artificial,
Oh my
no. But that makes
gosh.
me think of the conversations around neurodivergence, mental
Yeah.
health, queerness, right? I only speak for myself, but I see the tides shifting and they're doing it so slowly. But I go back to high school and having my period and how ashamed I was and all the things
Hmm.
we did to shame ourselves, and other boys did to us or what have you, heaven forbid you have a bleed through or something. Like it was mortifying. And I look
Yeah.
at my daughter's generation, Gen Z, she turns 22 soon, and they talk about period stuff all the time. They were going to
Yeah.
Target with, or well, not Target because Target it's problematic now, but they're going where you buy period products, right, with
Yeah.
their boyfriends. And it's at least for her group of friends, it's not
Hmm.
this thing that they feel shame around. So the
Yeah.
tides are shifting, and it takes people like you, and dare I say me,
Hmm.
talking about things and normalizing them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that sort of analogy. Like when you think about in art back in the day, and I was teasing you about being younger. I'm 58, so you're
Yeah.
not that much of a baby, but
Oh,
we're
oh,
very
okay.
vintagely familiar, right?
Yeah.
But if you think about what the ads even looked like around period
Yeah.
products back in the day,
Yeah.
like you were supposed to like use this product and then be frolicking through a field. That was the goal, right? I'm like, first of all, I
Yeah.
don't understand why we all wanted to be Julie Andrewsing on top of the Alps. I mean, of course we do, but
I
not
mean,
because we have our period.
I do
But
have a story about that. And I know you're a
uh-oh,
theater kid too, so
yeah.
we'll put a pin in that, but keep going.
Okay. Um, but yeah, that whole sense that first of all, no one was supposed to know you had it, and you were supposed to be so blissfully happy about it that you were supposed to be
Yeah.
running through a field of wildflowers. Like it's just
Yeah.
so no,
And
of course we felt
douching.
shame and uncomfortable and like no one should ever know, and we should be happy and not feel miserable and crampy and gross and disgusting.
Yeah.
Like all of that conversation never happened. And
Right.
and it does take, that and I think it was our generation that shifted that, because I remember having conversations with my girlfriends and being like, well, this is freaking ridiculous as a teenager. And I remember having a conversation with my kid's dad slash my husband at the time
Mm-hmm.
about like, no, like they're on the grocery list. Just pick them up. This is what the package looks like. Like, get over your mad self. Put them in the
Yeah.
cart, pay for them, and bring them home to me. Like, what is wrong? And so it was that kind of shifting that really changed that dynamic then for the folks coming after us. And that's the kind of shifts that we need to have around being kind of lockstep following the rules, which is what you're
Yeah.
about. Like, no, find your own way,
Exactly.
claim your path.
Yeah.
And my mission that is about like, why do we have this thing that we are all experiencing first of all, even if we just talk about it at the loss of a loved one level, we
Mhm,
are all
mhm.
going to experience it. It's like
Yep.
100% of us will experience grief for the loss of a loved one. Whatever the complicated circumstances around that are, we're all
Mhm,
going to
mhm,
experience that one. And we're all going to experience all the other ones. So it's this sort of thing that is in our collective soup all the time,
mhm.
right? Just looking at loss of loved one, it's at any given time 1 in 4 people.
Yeah.
So 25% of the people you
Mm,
know and are interacting with on a daily level, on
mm.
some level, are grieving the loss of a loved one. But we don't
Yeah.
want to talk about that. And we think that's healthy. Like, it just makes
Yeah.
no sense at all. It's so nonsensical.
Well, and that makes me think of there was a social media post today that I actually shared from another friend, and it's like, I am so over the performative bullshit. And so, like,
Yeah.
when I started the collective, I was like, no, like, I can't control what you bring into the space. And also, you're not going to fit in if you can't get beyond the performative, you
Yeah.
know, life is good and,
Yeah.
live, love, prosper. And, like if you're at that surface level platitude place, you're not ready for the depth of the container and, what have you. But
And
yes,
there's nothing wrong
performative.
with that. Like, if that's where you're
Absolutely
at,
not. I
and
was
that for
there for
your
a long
nervous system
time.
feels safe, and that's what you need to do to get through your
Absolutely.
day, there's no judgment here.
Yeah,
And there is an option for another way. And that's how
exactly.
I feel in the grief space too. It's like, yeah, we
Mhm.
could continue to keep saying, oh, my condolences,
Mm.
hugs and
What can
fond
I do to
wishes, or whatever.
help?
Ugh, gross, all of that, yuck, just never say it
Yeah,
again. Or we can try and find a different way that actually creates what we're trying to create, which I think
yeah,
is similar to what you're doing.
yeah.
What we're trying to create is connection.
Yes,
And what we're
yes.
creating by
Like,
accident is isolation.
yeah, whole ass human, like whole ass human connection.
Yeah.
Not the one bit of you that you show this, group, and not the one bit of it's like, no, we are whole human beings. Let's start fucking acting like it.
Yeah.
Um,
And if you're not ready
no,
for it, that's okay. Like, then I just
exactly.
release you to wherever you need to be. And that's okay.
Absolutely.
I am not going to play that way anymore.
And that's it, right? I'm no longer playing that game. I no
Yeah.
longer have energy to give to people. That sounds harsh. I don't mean it harsh. I am not here
No.
to drag people along. I'm not here to convince people. I'm here to show up how I am. And then if others want to come along on the journey, amazing. But I'm not here to convince. And I spent a lot of my entrepreneurial career like thinking I had to convince and like,
Mm,
but you want this, but you want to feel this. And it's like, no, 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 no. And so I've
yeah.
up leveled my work and who I work with and the stage of the journey, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I see you doing that as well. Of
Hmm.
what stage in the journey of a person's life cycle with grief do you want to work best with? And what
Yeah.
I love what you say about a way of being, because like when I launched We the Unruly, which is like a year ago now, it was very much a movement, a vibe, a way of being, right?
Hmm.
It's that way of being, and it's not my way of being, it's not Suzanne's way of being. It's like finding your way of being in this world that is incredibly, needs connection, talking about things we don't talk about around the dinner table. As a postmenopausal woman, well, this poop and postmenopausal have like literally nothing to do together, right? But it's like, why poop is important, right? And so find
Hmm.
your people, if that's a thing for you, like find your people that you can openly have those conversations with. I had to learn about itchy ears as like a menopause sign from Threads of all places, because
Mm.
our moms, or my mom, my grandmothers, they didn't share about that stuff
No.
because again, there was shame, right? Why? A woman cannot control if she has itchy ears in menopause.
Yeah.
Wow.
But we're supposed to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you and I and others that we're gathering are like, no, we're not playing. We are going back to, we are not playing this game anymore.
Yeah.
Um, so I love that. I love that. You also call yourself a grief educator, is I've
Mm.
heard you. When you How do you approach talking about grief to make it accessible and create an environment? Because I know you do this, create
Hmm.
environments of safety for people to really like. practice opening up and talking about these things?
So it depends on the space, obviously.
Yeah,
Um,
of course.
if I'm going into an organization, for example, or into a community, I always start with what I kind of fondly refer to as sort of grief 101.
Sure.
So let's talk about, and I talk about this in my TEDx talk too, right? What are the kind of
Mm,
the normal symptoms? Because no one really tells us that you should feel nauseous, you should have muscle weakness, you should be
mm,
clumsy, you should have sleep issues, your whole nervous system is dysregulated, your brain doesn't work right. Like there's about 8 or 9 really
mm.
normal, regular symptoms that happen to people at some point to some degree
Yeah.
when you're having a big grief. And then I talk about those and I talk about the real timeline. Because
Mm,
part of what breaks down when we're either grieving ourselves or trying to support someone who's grieving is if we don't understand how grief really works, then we're in Judgy McJudgerson land. And
yeah.
we're looking at the person and thinking, well, like, why are you not over it? Like, I was listening in on a conversation a few months ago of someone who was talking to someone else. Was not my conversation. So I was very proud of myself that I did not intercede, though I maybe should have.
Well done. I know you wanted
Right?
to.
I really, really wanted to.
Yeah, yeah.
And one person was saying to the other, they had been recently to, I don't know, Calgary or somewhere in Alberta near us, for their sister whose husband had died. So they're going to visit them for the memorial service. And when they got there and they said, like, what can I do to help? Their sister said, well, I don't have a dress. I don't know. I don't have
Mm.
anything to wear to this big gathering, this memorial service. And the person who was sharing this story with their friend, like, was aghast that she couldn't have figured out that she needed to go buy a dress. And I'm thinking,
Mm,
oh, good gravy. Like the
mhm,
idea that you have to go out in public,
mhm.
right, is really hard those earliest days and like be nice to a salesperson and all that stuff.
Yeah,
It's almost
yeah.
impossible. You have to have all your clothes on to be able to go out in public. So you have to have fully dressed from top to bottom in like things you could wear
Mhm,
in public, which for many of us has a whole bunch of rules around it, right? You can't just go
mhm.
out, for most of us in our PJs, right? Which is what we're probably
Yeah,
wearing around the house.
right.
You have to get yourself to a place that has many dresses to choose from and then not be overwhelmed that there's more than one dress, because please can there just be a
Mhm,
store that has the one right dress and I can just take it home. Like it's actually a lot of work to do that one thing, that to this
mhm.
person she was like, how can she not have been able to go do that? And I'm thinking, oh, that grieving brain and that emotional overwhelm, yeah, not being able to go buy the dress, I totally get it. And
Yeah.
bless this person, they had taken them to the mall and they had found a dress, all the things.
Yep.
But it's that lack of understanding that really the
Mhm.
overwhelming job of going to pick a dress, very normal that that would be overwhelming. So that's a very long answer to why I start there.
No. Yeah, no, I love
Yeah.
that. And my first podcast, which was like 8 or 9 years ago, I had a guest who had lost her father, and she was talking openly about grief too. And we were having a similar. She's not a grief educator, right? But we were talking about like these are things we collectively need to normalize talking about, right?
Yeah.
And she said, her friends were amazing for like the first 3 to 6 months. And then
Hmm.
all of a sudden at that 6 month mark, it was like, oh, you know, you should be all better. And then that the expectations were, well, it's time to get over it.
Yeah. Why aren't you over it? Yeah.
Why aren't you over it? Right. And it's such a lack of compassion and empathy and understanding. And it goes back to people's journeys get to be different, unfortunately. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And I really hold that it's actually the compassion and empathy is actually there. It's
mm,
the skill and knowledge gap
ooh,
that we need to fix,
it's a good one.
because those friends don't think they're abandoning their
That's
friend,
true. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They think because by that sort of 6 month mark, on the surface, most of us look okay,
Mm,
whatever okay
hmm.
looks like. But underneath is still a hot mess.
Yeah.
But if we don't understand that as a collective,
Mm,
that that's how grief operates, right? Around that 6 to 9 month mark, when we're moving out of that most acute phase where we're kind of moving a little bit out of survival mode,
hmm.
that's when, as you say, and if she had support for that first 3 to 6 months,
Yeah.
that's actually quite miraculous, because often
Right.
it's the
Right.
first
Right.
3 to 6 weeks, right? And then people are like,
Mm,
well, you're back at work, everything must be fine. I'm like,
yeah.
no, not at all. Like I had someone else do my grocery shopping for almost a year and a half
Mm,
because I could not navigate the grocery store. Grocery
hmm.
stores actually are really complicated for grievers. And every time I see an abandoned
Interesting.
cart, I think, oh, someone had a griefy moment and they left. They had to go.
Really? Yeah.
Right? Everything from the Muzak, which what if you just lost your husband and the Muzak plays your wedding song? You're
Yeah.
done. I don't care anymore about if I have broccoli at home or not, right? I don't care. I got to go.
Yeah.
What if you're walking down an aisle that's full of the things you would have bought your person, but now you don't need to because your person isn't there?
Yeah.
Plus, you have to have on some kind of mask that's socially acceptable, and you have to make small talk with the cashier. It's a horrible place for grievers. It is not set up well at all, right?
Yeah.
But thankfully, I had someone who was able and willing to take that on for me, and I just slowly built up my capacity. So I first got to
Right.
the point where I could buy the ingredients for our smoothie, right? Because we had the same smoothie every morning. We still
Mm.
do. Five
Yeah,
and a half
yeah.
years later, still just mostly
Still
make
do.
the same one. That's a low friction point, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I could make sure we had the blueberries, the spinach, the alt milk, and the peanut butter. So I
I
got to
love
the point where
that.
I could buy those four things, but I still had someone else doing everything else
Yeah,
for
yeah.
a year and
But
a half, right? Like,
mhm.
and we don't think it takes that long for us to be able to take back some of those really hard tasks, but it can. And it might not, right? Because each grief is different, each person is different. So there's an endless variety. The
Yeah.
trick is to just keep offering very specific offers.
Mm.
Anything you need, let me know. You're never going to hear from them. And then
Mm.
you end up feeling like they must not need anything because they never reach out to you.
Right.
But the truth is, they don't have the capacity to reach
The
out to you.
capacity. Yeah, totally. And as you're talking, again, it's been a big grief year for me personally
Mm-hmm.
in so many different ways. Hence why I haven't, Q2, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Where was I going with this? Squirrel. Oh, neurodivergence, right?
Yeah.
My brain has to operate at a very high level all day, every day because of day job, because of building movement, because I love to enjoy my life. And there are times like I don't brush my teeth. I don't have, yes, it's like a 2-minute thing. I don't have the executive function in me to
Mm-hmm.
do it. Right. And it's the unshaming that I've had to do around that. Right. Like,
Yeah.
of course, I want to brush my teeth every day. Of course I do. Right. And it's that showing yourself the grace and compassion, if you will, on those days where whether it's grief or your brain or whatever the reason, right? Asking yourself in the moment, like, what is the most loving thing I can do for myself right now? For
Yeah.
you, it was working up to being able to buy your smoothie ingredients, right? For
Mm-hmm.
me, it's accepting that, hey, my teeth are kind of dirty today. Don't get too close, right?
Yeah.
And folks listening in that are like, "Oh, that's so disgusting." You don't like none of us live in each other's experiences and bodies and all of that, right?
Yeah. And I really, for my sort of peace of mind and ability to maintain any relationships in my life,
Mhm.
really had to get to the place where I actually feel, in a weird way, immense gratitude that they don't get it.
Tell me more. I
Because
wanna hear about
I
that.
wouldn't, because in a way, I wouldn't wish what I've been through on anybody.
Mm,
I
fair.
don't wish that any parent receive that middle of the night phone call from the police to tell them their child has died. I don't
Yeah.
wish that experience on anybody. And part of why people don't get it is because we have this shared silence and they haven't
Yep.
lived through a similar enough experience to get it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
if I'm interacting with someone who doesn't get it and they don't get it because they have not had a catastrophic rupturing grief in their life, I have to be okay. Like, I'm actually really happy for them that that's their reality. It took me a very long time to not be pissed off about that, however,
Oh, I'm
right?
sure. I'm
Took a
sure.
lot of work and a very long time to be able to like give that grace, to be
Mhm.
like, you know what, I'm actually now at a place where I'm actually kind of grateful that you don't get it. I hope, that you don't get it from your lived
Mm.
experience.
Right,
My
right.
hope and wish is that you would want to get it at a theoretical level enough that you could show up for someone,
Right.
and that we not have to have lived these catastrophic losses in order to be able to show up for each other. because not everyone is going to have that kind of a catastrophic loss. Some
Yeah.
losses are not that rupturing, right? They happen and
Mm-hmm.
we grieve them and we move forward and we carry that grief with us. And that all happens without completely decimating and blowing up your life. And some losses, you are left feeling like you are living in a post apocalyptic nightmare.
Yeah.
And so the fact that I get what that feels like because I have done it,
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Mm-hmm.
wish that on anybody else, right? Because it's
Yeah,
awful.
yeah. I can I can see that. I can see that. About 5 years ago I lost my mom and I got to spend the
Mhm,
last week with her. We knew she was dying um quite soon, right? And the only way I can describe it is such a I use the word brutal
mhm.
and beautiful experience to be able to hold my mom's hand when she could no longer
Yeah,
open her eyes, to have that connection to her. And it was heartbreaking and devastating and one of the hardest things I've ever been through, right?
yeah.
And I had a very difficult relationship with my mom through many, many years, right? And it was like I had to use my own, you know, message of who do I want to be in this moment for
Mhm.
my mom, right?
Yeah.
And at first I was kind of I don't know, I was like pissed isn't the right word, but I was just like,
Mhm,
why didn't you take I didn't say this to her, but like, why didn't you take better care of your body? We wouldn't have to be watching you die in front of our eyes, blah blah blah. But then I was like, you know what? She is a dying woman, scared, right? She
mhm,
knows she's dying, she's scared. Um just how can I give as much compassion to her as a human being? Not necessarily my mother, but her as a human being, right? Who
mhm.
is
Yeah,
scared in this moment. And that felt so much better to show up in that way than how I
yeah,
initially entered the room to be with
yeah,
her.
yeah.
But that's through a lot of my own identity work to be able to separate my mom versus my
Mhm.
mom as a human being.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad I did, but it's not easy.
No, and I think, there's so many of us that have complicated relationships with our parents,
Yeah,
right?
for
It's just
sure.
complicated. I think our generation to our parents more than us to our kids.
Mhm.
Interestingly, it's an interesting shift that I'm seeing in the sort of sociological dynamic.
Hmm.
Um, but I think the beautiful thing about that is now you're left knowing that regardless of what your lived experience was like in
Mhm.
that mother-daughter relationship,
Mhm.
your human to human relationship, when it
Right.
really mattered,
Yep.
was about love
Mm.
and care and
Mhm.
compassion. And
Mhm.
that's the ticket, right?
Yeah.
If we can release all the other stuff. And, it's interesting. I work with folks often around sort of forgiveness and those kinds of things because often that stuff comes up when our grief
Yeah.
happens.
Absolutely.
And, we've heard it so many times like forgiveness is not about the person. It's not saying, oh, I think what you did was right. Forgiveness is me saying, I release all the poop I'm carrying around because of
Mhm.
that, because that's not serving me.
Yeah.
And my journey this go round is about how am I the most in love, being love, doing
Mhm.
love as much as possible
Yeah, and
as an
reorienting
imperfect
that.
human, right? Right.
Yeah,
In an
reorienting to
imperfect
that.
way.
Yeah. But choosing that time and time again when you stray,
Yeah.
right? Being able to recognize, "Oh, I've kinda gotten away. Strayed off from how I want to show up." And again, that is so much a part of the work that we do in the Unruly Collective is that reorienting back to this is who I want to be because I mean, we know it. Life is going on all around us, and
Yeah.
literally the only thing you can control is how you show up. And I love that
Yeah.
you use the
That's
word
it.
imperfect, right? It's like, dang, work in progress as we all are, right? And so
Yep.
it's easy to sit here and talk about it. It's so much harder to do it. But I
Hmm.
think you're like me in that the doing of it, the embodying of it is so important to who we are as humans.
Yeah.
you know, and one of the things I like to say is like, you know, this whole thing on selfish, I'm like, you know, oftentimes I think selfish is the most selfless thing you can do. And you said it
Yeah.
because it, you know, it's like you embodying, you know, what's important to you, it has to ripple out into your work, your
Hmm.
clients, your friendships, your other relationships, like all of that, right?
Yeah.
And if that's the only
Yeah.
thing we can control, why don't we do more of that work to get there? Rhetorical question. Because it's hard. It's don't get me wrong.
Because and it's scary.
It's privileged to be able to
Yeah.
have like the support, the
100%.
time to do that, right? Yeah, absolutely. There is a lot
Yeah.
of privilege, whether it's time, resources, support, anything, to be able to be in a safe enough position to do that. And I wish
Yeah.
and I think that's part of what drives me is helping the collective heal more of themselves so they can go do that for others who can then also, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I imagine this world of people that are embodying that work.
Yeah. And it's the unseen ripple effect, right? Every
Yeah.
time we, you know, and I absolutely am with you there. Like, I absolutely get the fact that I don't live in survival mode means
Mhm.
I have the privilege to be able to do these kinds of things with my time and my attention and my intention, like all of that.
Mhm. Mhm.
The beautiful thing about it is that creates the ripple in the
Yep.
collective that impacts
Exactly.
everyone. So
Mhm.
each of us that is taking the time and the effort to do this kind of work on ourselves, on our communities,
Mhm.
impacting our clients and our friends and our circles of influence, that has that ripple out effect. And
Mhm.
it's, you know, now documented scientifically around energetics and, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
all the woo woo things that we love to talk about, right? But we know now that that ripple is real. We can see it
Mhm.
in so that actually also, I think for those of us who are in these positions that have the ability to do that, should be inspiring us to do it even more. Because every
Yes.
time that we do it and every time that we choose that and we
Yeah.
embody that, it
Yeah.
ripples out to the folks that maybe can't because
Mhm.
their focus has to be on survival, has to be on like, how do I get
Exactly.
food on the table and shelter over my head?
Yeah. So I
You
take
know,
that
at a different level than the
responsibility.
grocery store is overwhelming because there's too many choices, right? Like that's also a level of privilege where the grocery store is overwhelming because
Yeah.
there's too much choice and there's pretty music in. Like this is also a level of privilege. That's the whole, you know, thing that we need to be
Absolutely.
aware of. Yeah, I love when I get to talk with clients about, you know, one of the gifts of grief to me is because your bandwidth is so diminished
Mm.
in that earliest part, that sort of first 6 to 9 months, it really for me was an opportunity for me to learn the healthiest version of selfishness
Mm. Yes.
because I'm
Love
100% a
that.
recovering people pleaser, overgiver, all of that,
Mhm.
contortionist, all the things, mask wearer, however you want to name all of that
Yeah.
body of things
Yeah.
that we do. And when Ben died, I really, like, I had no bandwidth for any of that. I
Yeah.
literally could not do it. So I had to figure out, okay, well, if I'm going to, and I remember saying to my daughter, okay, I'm first of all going to be 100% responsible for myself. I have to take care of myself because I'm
Yep.
otherwise going
Yep.
to fall apart. And then I'm here to help with whatever you need. And we're going to do this as a team.
Mhm.
And everybody else is on their own.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to, and, you know, I was in
They're
that
just gonna
position also
have
where there
to.
was no children involved, right? I didn't have to also, you
Mhm.
know, cut oranges for the soccer game or any of that stuff. Everybody was adults. Everybody else is gonna have to figure it out. Like I can no longer be responsible for maintaining all the familial relationships, for example. Like I don't have the
Yeah.
bandwidth. So if you
Yeah.
want to get together with those people, you're gonna need to reach out to those people and plan a get together. Because I'm not taking all of that on anymore.
Right. Right.
I'm no
Yeah,
longer going to be
it's
responsible for everybody else. I'm gonna be responsible for me and I'm gonna be
Mhm.
responsive to her and everyone else is gonna have to figure it out. And I
Yeah.
know that was disruptive for other people. And I had to get okay
Absolutely.
with that because I had to push myself up the to-do list, right? And I work so much with women, especially because I mostly
Mhm.
work with women, but for women, especially that like, okay, but wait, like if you were only going to do exactly what was right for you, what would your answer be?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
let's layer in everyone else's needs that maybe are slightly misaligned and figure out how we get it, you know, where it's doable for everyone. But we
Mhm.
have to start with like, if you were only doing it for you, what would your
Yeah.
answer be?
Right.
And then layer everyone else in. Not the other way around. Not
Not
everybody
the
else
other
needs
way
this, and then
around.
I'm like an afterthought. No, no, no. We have to
Yeah.
shift that the other way
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
model
It's
that for our kids and our communities and our daughters and our sons and our, spheres of influence. Like you can make those compromises, but you have to make them from a what's right for me, and then how do I make that right for everyone?
amen. I couldn't have said it any more eloquently than that. But that really is the key, right?
Yeah.
And if we go back to paradigm shifting, that is
Hmm.
such a big paradigm shift. And I
Yes.
know, I'm trying to do it. You're out there doing it. Others are out there doing it. Sometimes it feels exhausting and overwhelming, but it's like it goes back to a way of being. And how do
Yeah.
we be for ourselves so that we can then be for the collective, right? And
Yes.
going back to privilege, I think of so I don't know. Well, okay, let me back up. One of the We the Unruly guests was Becky Mullenkamp, and she said something that really stuck with me is that the system isn't broken. The system is
Mm-mm.
working exactly as designed, right?
Yep.
And I think I'd heard that before too, but it really stuck in my head. And I'm like, I'm I don't know how to build the systems that the collective needs, but I sure as shit can do my part to help the people who do know how to build the new systems be as resourced as they can
Hmm.
possibly be, right?
Hmm.
That's when I think of like use your privilege. If you're in a place of safety and use your privilege for the collective. And I can't convince everyone, I can't
Nope.
drag them along. I can model a way of being and invite others to join me. So when
Yeah.
I think of the Unruly Collective, and We the Unruly, the visual I have is just these strong, powerful women linking arms together and saying, we're
Hmm.
not standing for this anymore.
Yeah. And what's really fascinating to me in this moment in history is the systems that have been working perfectly are starting to fall apart.
Yeah.
And we
It's
need
a
that breakdown
mhm,
for the next thing to come. And it's
mhm,
horrifyingly painful to watch the
mhm.
human cost of the breakdown of these systems, and that cost being
And
disproportionately borne by the folks who the systems never worked for in the first place. Like,
yep.
it's all so frustrating on so many levels. And also, I actually feel an immense amount of hope
Yeah, I do too. I do too.
because the breakdown has to come before the
It has
breakthrough.
to. It has
And this
to.
is the breakdown.
It
Oh gosh, it has to be. Please let this be the breakdown. Like,
well,
it cannot get any more chaotic and shenanigans than we're looking at right now. It's just bonkers.
yeah. And one of the things, yes, I am full of so much hope. I have other friends that are just, they're not there yet, right? And
Yeah.
they might not ever be there, but it's seeing it happen. And I like to say, like, I was born for these times. Like, it
Hmm.
can be both devastating and brutal and heartbreaking, and the hope can coexist, right? And
Yeah.
like, let's do something about this for fucking finally.
Yeah. And that to me, is another gift of grief, right?
Yeah.
And I remember saying to my daughter in the early days, we are going to become masters at holding paradox
Yeah.
because you
We have
have to
to.
be able to
You
hold
have
both
to.
and in
Yeah.
grief, right? Because otherwise you would just be in despair.
Yeah.
And we can't just be in despair. We have to be in despair, and hope is probably too big a word if you're in despair, but
Yeah.
despair
Yeah.
and possibility maybe is more,
Possibility. Yeah.
accessible. But I remember saying to her, because she talked about feeling all the feelings at the same time. And I said, oh, yeah, like, and the perfect example was, this all happened in the COVID times when there was lots of restrictions on gathering, I think for
Mhm.
very good reasons. But, you might differ about your opinion about that. Doesn't matter. Um, but we were finding the ways within the boundaries of what was allowed to happen for people to come because people wanted to come
Mhm.
and see us. And I said to her, it's what's so interesting is we can feel so grateful and so, yeah, grateful that someone is
Mhm.
coming to see us and so devastated as to why.
Yeah.
But you're
Yeah.
having to hold that at the same time.
Yeah.
And that is everything. Everything in our life is that. Nothing is just pure joy or just
Mm-hmm.
pure despair. It's
Yeah.
all a mesh of multiple things. And being able to hold that multiplicity instead of staying caught in the sort of duality, which is
Yeah.
what's got us in this mess in the first place, that either or,
Exactly. Yep.
that's another thing that you can learn through grief and through that understanding that, oh
Mm.
yeah, that, even if it's one of this, I hate the English language is so terrible when it comes to grief. I was going to say a smaller grief. Like, it's not like a contest. And
Yeah.
I say that as someone who like reached the pinnacle of that hierarchy of losses. Like, having
Yeah.
reached the pinnacle, there is no prize there, right? There's no win in having, experienced the death of a child, which somehow is like the worst. I don't know who decided that.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrifying, don't get me wrong, but there's
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of losses that are horrifying. Um,
Absolutely.
but in the ones that are not as disruptive, the beauty of seeing those as grief and loss that comes from change. So if you're in change, which we are all the time, right? You're in loss and grief
Yeah.
all the time. We can practice playing with that multiplicity, with that
Mm.
both and instead of either or. And if
Yeah.
we practice it and we encourage and we have conversations at those kinds of losses and those kinds of levels, when those big catastrophic ones come, if they do, we have some shared agreements about how we talk about it. We have some tools in our toolbox. We have some understanding about how the flow might go for us, right?
Mm.
But when we cut off even acknowledging that any of those things are loss and have grief attached to them, we don't get any practice.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
we need
Uh,
practice, because as a
we need
collective,
practice.
we're really
We're
terrible
we're
at this.
shit at it. Suzanne,
Terrible.
I actually don't know the answer to this question. So this is not me
Uh-oh.
leading you somewhere. Do you have resources that people can check out around what you
Um,
just talked about?
I do. I have some resources. Oh my gosh. Okay, I named them really simple things so I would be able to remember when I was on things like this, but I don't remember what they are. So, if you go to SuzanneJabour.com or follow me on
Mhm.
all the socials, I have not always loved my name, but I love it now because I'm literally the only one. So I'm Suzanne Jabour
Me
on
too.
Facebook. I'm Suzanne Jabour on LinkedIn. I'm very easy to find,
Mhm.
SuzanneJabour.com.
And we'll
If you
have
go
all
to
the links in this.
SuzanneJabour.com, yeah, you know what? I did not specifically send you these ones, but I will, so you can put them in
Okay,
the show notes for the
perfect.
podcast episode.
Yeah.
If you go to SuzanneJabour.com/grievers, there's actually
Mm.
a landing page with a grief resource. And
Okay.
if you go to slash, I think we called it workplace. If it's not
Mm.
workplace, it's business, but I'll find out and it'll be in the show notes. Then you'll get a resource around how you can help people in your workplace who are navigating grief,
Ooh.
because that 3 to 5 days, not long enough. We all know that. Horrifying. So grievers in that most acute phase, when they don't even know what day it is or what time it is, and it's a
Mm.
miracle they manage to get themselves dressed and out of bed and to your place, to your business,
Mhm.
they are in that workplace. 1 in 4,
Mhm.
right? And workplaces
Yeah.
have no clue how to help them. So yes, there are resources. Look in the
I
show
love
notes.
that. The show notes. Okay, as we wind down here, this has been
Yeah,
so rich and deep, and I knew we were aligned, but I didn't realize the depth of alignment, and I love
yeah.
that. One, the question I love to ask at the end of these, what do you get to have the rest of your life because you are shifting paradigms, you are normalizing talking about grief? What do you get to have the rest of your life?
Oh, that's such a good question. And I had thought about it before, and I had a completely
Mhm.
different answer than I do right now in the moment. So in the
Ooh,
moment,
I
what
love
I would
this.
say is, on the personal level, I get the opportunity to both be in continuous growth and learning for myself, and making some sense of the nonsensical, right? Which was my
Mm,
son's death. And
mm.
it really does help me to sort of not make that have a reason, because I don't actually believe everything happens for a reason. I think
No,
that's a problematic paradigm that I don't like.
absolutely. Yep.
But when things happen, we get to decide how to respond. And my decision about how to respond was, I'm going to take what I'm learning and help other
Mm,
people
yeah.
with it. So on the personal level, that's what I get to have. On
Mhm.
the collective level, what I love to get to have is those moments where people are able to show up differently, or are
Yeah.
able to grieve themselves differently because they heard a conversation that I had, or they
Mhm.
watched my TEDx, or they grabbed a resource, or they follow me on the socials, or whatever it is. I love those moments when I meet people and they say, "Oh, I love your little videos. Like I learned so much from them, or I think about
Mm.
it differently, or it helped me in a moment I was really struggling." That's what I get to have on the collective level, and that is just pure magic.
I have goosebumps. Thank you so much for being here, sharing your wisdom, normalizing talking about grief. As someone who's, again, been through a lot lately, I really appreciate you and your work.
Thank you. I appreciate you and your work too, because I cannot do this while being a really rule follower. I have to be able to be
Right?
a paradigm shifter instead.
There we go. Thank you so much, Suzanne. Again, we will have all of your links in the show notes. And I'm just delighted that I exist in a world with you in it. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend.